for sharing knowledge and discussion about wildlife. I am Galuh Diandini, and for short, you can call me Galuh. I currently part of Himpunan Minat Profesi Satwa Liar, or Himpro Satli, FKH IPB University Batch 56. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for this amazing session. And please all praise and gratitude to our God Almighty, because by His power we can gather in such a good condition and learn together even though virtually. It's totally fine. So in this session, I have a personal rule in here. So when I say hello wildlife, you guys should reply me with long life wildlife. You guys can type on your chat box, or you can open up your camera. No, open up your microphone. I will give it a try. Are you ready? So hello wildlife.
Long life wildlife.
Okay, thank you. You are as excited as I do. Maybe I will give it a try one more time. Hello wildlife.
Long
Long life
life
wildlife.
wildlife.
I see. Okay. Keep your spirit up, guys, until the end of today's session. So, before we jump into today's session, we are pleased to have Jasmine Electra Alicia Wahono as head of Himpro Satwa Liar 2021 to deliver an opening speech. Kak Jasmine Electra, the online stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome Dr. Muhammad Agil and Dr. Liki Siswandi as Himpra Satwaliar's advisors. Good afternoon, Doc. I would also like to welcome Dr.
Afternoon.
Najmi Hazira Hamzah as our speaker today. Thank you so much, Doctor, for this great opportunity to be able to invite you as our speaker. And thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. We are pleased to be able to welcome all of the participants from Indonesia and other countries. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the committee who generously made this event come together to become a success. In today's webinar, we will focusing our topic to conservation medicine and husbandry of penguins from underwater world Langkawi, which is rockhopper and African penguins. We hope this event will help you learn more about penguins and establish a connection between us. So a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm sure today will be fun and full of learning. That's all for me. Thank you very much for listening, and let us welcome Dr. Hazira, Dr. Agil, and Dr. Riki. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kak Jasmine Electra. What a great opening for all of us. Hope we can learn together here as well. And for the next one, we are pleased to have Dr. Hewan Muhammad Agil, Master of Science in Agriculture Diploma ACCM, as our advisor of Himpro Satwa Liar FKH IPB University, to give us a warm welcome. To Dr. Agil, the floor is yours, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much, Galuh and Yasmin, for the introductions. First of all, I would like to send my sincerest to Dr. Hasmi, who comes to this meeting, and then it's a really great honor for us, especially for our students, to have you with us, and you will give your expertise in the underwater world of Langkawi, especially talking about the husbandry and conservation medicine of the penguin that you already work with since 2019. And hopefully it will give more knowledge, and also to broaden the understanding about the husbandry and conservation medicines about the penguin, especially according to your experience work at the underwater world of Langkawi. And thank you to the Himprosat Warrior Satli Wildlife Students Associations, Wildlife Medicine Student Association at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicines at Bogor Agriculture University, or so-called now become the IPB University. And hopefully this will be a part of the regular program that we can conduct during this semester, and hopefully for the next semester also we can still continue to conduct this good and beneficial opportunity for our students to get the information, especially for vets from different country, and especially these times, we thanks to Dr. Najmi Hazira Hamzah, who she has a really good experience working at Underwater World Langkawi since 2019 as a veterinarian there, and then she will give you about the informations about the husbandry management, and also about the animal healthcare of the penguin, especially for the wildlife bird that really this is something, an exotic species for our the Indonesian, and also especially for the Malaysians students. Okay, so so through this opportunity, so I also would like to send our gratitude to the management of Underwater World Langkawi, who give an opportunity for our student to have Dr. Hazmi for us with us this evening, this afternoon, and hopefully this will be step a stepping stone for the next further for the further program, especially connection with the underwater of Langkawi. Okay, I think that's all I could say in this opportunity, and good luck for all the students, and hopefully also we will have some students from Malaysia also, that because as long as I know from Jasmine that she already in contact with the student associations, especially in the wildlife medicines from Malaysia also, and hopefully we can also have their students in this opportunity, in this event. So I think that's all. I don't want to talk long because I believe that Dr. Najmi will give you a lot of information, something really interesting and something really new for us and for our students. So thank you very much for the opportunity to have this webinar, and hopefully all the students will enjoy the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agil. That was such a warm welcome to all of us today. And yeah, I do hope we can gather insights as much as we can. So make sure you guys pay attention and be present by turning your camera on and use the virtual background provided by the committee. And also be proactive throughout the session. Once again, thank you, Dr. Agil. And
Welcome.
yes, I would like to invite our beloved speaker, Dr. Hewan Najmi Hazira Hamzah, who has been with us at this moment. But please let me give a glimpse introduction about Dr. Hazira first. Okay, Dr. Hazira is currently a veterinarian at Underwater World Langkawi, precisely in Curatorial department, and veterinarian consultant or part-timer as assistant veterinarian at Langkawi Wildlife Park. She was graduated from University Malaysia Kelantan for veterinary medicine in 2019 and graduated from Kedah Matriculation College in 2015. 14, I'm sorry. She has interest in petting zoo and wildlife field with wildlife medicine, zoo animals, and aquatic medicine. Now I would like to invite her to the spotlight. Hello, how's your day, Dr. Hazira?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how's your day? Are you good?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity.
Okay. How's your feeling for today, doctor?
Okay.
Are you ready for deliver such an amazing session today?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, before we start the session, I would like to inform the participants that if you have any questions, whatever your question is, please type your questions in the Slido. Link will be provided in the chat box by the committee. I'm sure Dr. Hazira will be pleased to answer your questions. So without any further ado, I please to Dr. Hazira to give the presentation. So Dr. Hazira, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. For today's webinar session, we will talk about the introduction to medical conservation and husbandry. And for today's webinar session, together with me is my aquarium manager, Ms. Ariati Sari binti Ibrahim, for the Q&A section regarding the technical issue of the penguin husbandry. So now we start our webinar. So for your information, underwater Langkawi is located at the Langkawi Island. Langkawi is officially known as Langkawi. The Jewel of Kedah is a district and a group of 99 islands with 30 kilometers off the coast of the northwestern Malaysia. The island a part of the state of Kedah, which is adjacent to the Thailand. So now let's move on to our company profile. Underwater Langkawi was opened to the public on August 1995 with built-up area of 136,000 feet square. We have about more than 100 of the various size and shape of tank. Our biggest tank is a marine tunnel that occupies about 600,000 liters of salt water with 15 meters in length. So for our African penguin tunnel, like in the picture, the volume of the water is about 180,000 liters of salt water with 8 meters in length. In underwater Langkawi, we have about 2,000 live exhibits with 400 species of animals and sea creatures. So for your information, underwater Langkawi already awarded with a various award for the excellent achievement, which include as the largest aquarium in Malaysia by Malaysia Book of Record on 2004. We also got a few awarded by the Tourism Malaysia. And one of our best achievement is the first breeding of rockoper penguin in captivity by Malaysian Book of Record on 2009. And there are first wedding ceremony being held in the penguin tank on 2005 and this also awarded by Malaysian Book of Record. Our latest awarded is a My TPA Award, which is Malaysian Tourism Quality Assurance by Tourism Malaysia. So let me introduce to you some sections in underwater Langkawi. We have about 12 sections in total. For our preview tank, there is we have a largest freshwater fish, which is Arapaima gigas, which the length is up to 8 feet. And next we move on to the river ecosystem. In this river ecosystem, we have a various type of freshwater, include pangasius fish, bala shark, and red-tailed fish, and many other freshwater fishes. And move on to the tropical rainforest sections. In this section, we have a various type of the avian species such as macaw, electus parrot, Grattus flamingo, and also our common marmoset. Next, we move on to the temperate section. In the temperate section, we have our first sea sections and also African penguin. And beside that, we have a sub-Antarctic section that located the rockoper penguin. So move on to the next section, our red arena. In our red arena, we have a various type of the stingray and also cat shark. And in marine section, we have a colorful various ornamental fish with a coral reef. And for the hexagon, we have a black tip and also white tip reef shark. Move on to the tunnel 10, we have our giant large size of the fishes, including our giant grouper, giant trevally, our sea turtle, and many other species of fish in a large size. And the last one is our coastline section and our core point section, together with adorable water section. So let's move on to the main agenda for today. Meet the penguins of underwater Langkawi, the introduction to the conservation medicine and husbandry. So for your information, penguins are scientific classified into the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, order the Spaniformes, under family of Spanicidae, and there are 6 modern genera of all species of penguin. For our penguin in underwater Langkawi, we have 2 species of penguin, which is African penguin, which also known as Spanicus demersus, and also our northern broad-upper penguin, scientifically known as the Eudiptis marcellai. So for the African penguin, this penguin also called a black-footed penguin or Jacques penguin. They are categorized under a medium-sized penguin. The main features of the African penguin, they have a black band across the chest, and these species have distinct pink patches of the skin above the eye. But in the picture, we cannot see the pink patches. Okay, and this African penguin also characterized by the black facial mask. We move on to our upper penguin. This is a small sized penguin. They have a thin yellow crest that extends behind of the eye. They have a white belly with the rest of the body is the black. The main color of the all species of the penguin is black and white. So if you can see on the dorsal part of the penguin is a black in color and the ventral part is white in color. So for the IUCN red list status, for both penguin in underwater Langkawi, both of them is classified into endangered animals. So it is important for the conservation program to be done in order to increase the number of the population of penguin, and hopefully by this conservation program, it can help to recover the endangered species. For your information, currently internationally, we have about 18 species of penguin. So move on to the anatomical features. For the oral cavity, they have beak, corner slit, glottis, and also tongue. So for the beak, they have sharp edges. The shape and the size and the shape of the bill is vary with the species. The species that mainly eat fish have longer and thinner bill, such as our African penguin, and while species that mainly eat krill have shorter and thicker bill, like our rockford penguin. So their tongue is a very special because they lacking of taste bud and they have large keratinized bristles that will help to grip the fish as it enters the mouth. So for the penguin eye, their eye have a flattened cornea and a strong eye muscle which help them to change the shape of their eye lens in order to create a sharp, clear image both on land and in water. In addition to this, penguins have a nictitating membrane, which also known as a third eyelid. This third eyelid membrane will protect the eye from any debris that might be underwater. So for the feathers, if you can see in the feathers in the blue background, the feathers have 2 portions. For the first one is the soft inner downy portion that trap air to contain the body heat. And for the outer side, the feathers is steamed and interlocked with the other feathers to keep the water out. Penguin feathers are very specialized that can improve the swimming performance while providing insulation and also waterproofing. This feather will help them to keep in the warm and in the really cool water. So for the pring gland, this gland is located at the base of the tail, and pring gland also known as the uropharyngeal gland, informally called the oil gland or pring gland. So this gland will produce a type of oil that refers to as pring oil, which may contain antibacterial properties. Okay, for the penguin, they use the beak to retrieve the oil from that gland and we spread along the feathers in order to keep the feathers healthy and help to condition them. We move on to the diving adaptation of the penguin. The body is the streamline and the flipper are adapted for swimming. They have a very dense bone, unlike the flighted birds, and this bone will help them to stay underwater. So for the specialty in diving adaptation, they have the specific type of hemoglobin that bind really well to the oxygen. The hemoglobin is more specific and more accurate than human. This hemoglobin will release when the blood become more acidic, which means that the blood have more carbon dioxide, and thus as the diving, the carbon dioxide will build up in the blood, causing it to become the acidic. And then this hemoglobin will release the oxygen into the tissue. So for the behavior of the penguin, for the first behavior is a social behavior. Okay, penguin are very sociable birds. They make a lot of different sounds. All the species are very colonial. They may swim and feed in groups. Reproduction behavior of the penguin. Most penguins have the same partner all their adult life. When a male penguin reaches a breeding age, it will go and find a nest. Penguin is a co-parent, which means both of male and female will raise their young. When the chick has hatched, they will take turns to keep the chick warm and bring back the food. So for the nesting behavior, the temperate penguins, such as our African penguin, in the wild, they often nest underground in the rock cave, under shrub, or in the scrape in the ground. Okay. Underground or other sheltered cave provide environment with relatively constant air temperature for the eggs and chicks. For upper penguin, they make the nest by scraping a hole in the ground and lining it with dry grasses or branches. Okay, for the penguin feeding and diet, mainly most of the penguin species eat krill, squid, and also fishes. Various species of penguin have slightly different food preference. For the small penguin species such as of the Arctic and subarctic penguins, such as our upper penguin, the primary feed is krill and squid. And for the species like African penguin, they tend to eat fishes. So for the routine examinations, this is what we currently practice in our place. We will do the monthly body weight and health checkup. We will check the feet, the eye, oral cavity, and also mucous membrane. The general body condition score and feather condition was observed. Okay, we also observe for the sign of the illness and abnormal heart, such as regurgitation or vomiting, any bleeding presence from the body, swelling, lameness, and respiratory problem, including coughing. The routine neck trimming were done in all birds in our captivity, and ID tagging or microchip number placement were placed on the juvenile penguin after the chick stage. So usually the microchip number placement is subcutaneous located placed at the upper neck of the bird. So the routine vaccinations for the penguin are very rare. At least annually, the blood collection needs to be done in order to detect any abnormality from the complete blood count. So we move on to the common diseases in penguin. For your information, this is most common disease that we can find in the captivity, and in underwater Langkawi, all of these diseases are very, very common. So first one is aspergillosis. Aspergillosis is a severe fungal disease and often affects penguin under stress. It is fungal infection caused by Aspergillus organism. Aspergillus fumigatus is a known opportunistic pathogen of penguin, and this fungal species is ubiquitous in the environment. The clinical sign that we can observe with the patient of aspergillosis is open mouth breathing, coughing, and inability to vocalize. There are presence of the mucus at the glottis. The birds become inappetent, lethargic, weight loss, tend to isolate from the group, and always lying down. So diagnostic workup that can be done is a bifungal culture from the throat, trachea, and also asset. Okay, this aspergillosis is very pathognomonic for the postmortem lesions, such as granulomas nodule on the lung can be seen. Like in the picture in the below B picture, we can see the granulomas nodule on the lung. That is very pathognomonic for aspergillosis. And then by radiograph, we can see the pulmonary or asset granulomas or general cloudiness to the asset or lung pit. So the treatment for the aspergillosis usually depends on the stage and the severity of the disease. Usually it's a very long-term treatment. The antifungal drug may be given systematically by oral or intravenously, by nebulizations or intratracheal. Okay, fluid may be also given orally by tube, subcutaneously, or IV on the patient with a very advanced stage. Fast-feeding fish by tube also be given for the short-term support. Okay, for the drug, typical oral intraconazole are given to the patient with the aspergillosis. In case where the intraconazole is not effective, voriconazole is recommended. But the voriconazole is very expensive and cost prohibited. In addition to the by nebulization, usually any conazole also can be given, and by intravenously amphotericin B also can be chosen. So to prevent and to control the infections of aspergillus, usually cleaning and disinfect the tank regularly is very, very recommended. The keeper need to perform the good management practice and the biosecurity, and the egg culture need to be done monthly by using a subbroad dextrose agar in order to detect any presence of the fungal species in the enclosure. So move on to the eye problem. The most common eye problem is conjunctivitis and corneal opacity. Usually for the conjunctivitis, it's known as a pink eye or red eye. It is an itchy inflammation of the tissue that coat the eye and the lining of the eyelid called conjunctiva. So for the corneal opacity, it occurs when the cornea becomes scared, appear white or clouded. Okay, the common cause of the eye problem in penguin usually due to infections, traumatic injury, corneal abrasion, or due to fighting and scratch of the eye. So the treatment usually based on the causes of the infection, and it may include both topical and oral medication. Usually we use topical antibiotic ophthalmic ointment such as terramycin eye ointment. In this case of the picture from A to D, it states about less than 1 week by only using a terramycin eye ointment. In birds that have secondary conjunctivitis, oral antibiotic or anti-inflammatory medication may be used. So we move on to the pododermatitis or bumblefoot. This can be classified into the early stage or advanced stage. This condition usually can be found in all species of avian. It is predisposed by a change in a normal activity such as a decreased swimming, too much seated, prolonged standing on the hard abrasive surface, or contaminated with a surface with the excessive moisture or pickle. So the lesion may be a result of the bacterial infection from the puncture wound or soft tissue damage caused by the pressure necrosis. When the epithelium compromised, secondary bacterial infection can occur, and that's why it resulting in the deep soft tissue infection like in the advanced stage. So if left untreated, severe complications can occur, such as mineralized soft tissue and also osteomyelitis. This can be seen radiographically. So for the dermatitis case, we can see a clinical sign like abdominal stand and gait, such as limping. The bird usually lying down. Foot pad acceleration can be observed like a scalp formation in the early stage picture, the epithelial thinning and also lacerations. And the foot pad also swelling and redness. During the palpation, the bird very feel pain and discomfort. So the treatment for the dermatitis is based on the stages, and usually we give systemic antibiotic or topical antibiotic cream only. So for the early stage, usually for the cone or the scalp formation, we use a topical antibiotic cream, and it can take time and it will resolve completely. But for the advanced stage, we need to perform a wound daily cleaning and debridement to remove the necrotic tissue. And after the daily cleaning, we did a bandaging, and to prevent any wet contaminated to the bandage, the booties will be used. As a prevention or control of this case, usually we will encourage the penguin to swim on a daily basis, and the keeper will remind to spend several hours each day to allow the penguin to swim. And other than that, we will use the matting over the surface in order to reduce the abrasiveness of the surface and to fill the small pore where the bacterial colony can grow. So we move on to the egg-related health issue. Pathology of reproductive system is uncommon in penguin, but egg binding and a cloaca prolapse have been reported. So, but for the treatment of egg binding problems, it is similar to other avian species. Usually, manual extraction of the egg is preferable. If that is not possible, surgical removal of the egg may be required. So, removal of the entire oviduct may be necessary if egg retention leads to oviductal rupture or necrosis. As a prevention control, the problem, birds should have their calcium level checked periodically, and calcium supplementation will be beneficial. So move on to the next one is a cloaca prolapse. This one is a rare case in our place, and it's a very common in our upper penguin. So the treatment is usually to clean the tissue by using saline, KY lubricant, and a manual reduction is done. So first, strain suture around the vein for about 5 days, and we will put the topical, betadine, and also Vaseline. During this minor surgery, we did a local lidocaine, and we will give the systemic antibiotic and anti-inflammatory about 7 days. Calcium gluconate injection were given once during the presentation day, and calcium lactate per orally were given for about 14 days. Okay, fruit therapy were given in the penguin if needed, and in case we give for about 4 days. And as a prevention control, the calcium supplementation will be given. So let's move to another main agenda for today, the captive breeding of penguin at underwater Langkawi. So please bear in mind that this is what we are currently practice at our place, and it might different from the other zoo or aquaria. So for your information, the conservation program that we are currently practice is a true captive breeding. And for our African penguin, for your information, this bird arrived on May 2005 with 18 birds in total from Great Plains Zoo, United States. And after 1 year in captive underwater Langkawi, the firstborn of African penguin chick were hatched. Now these penguin are 15 years old, and for your information, this penguin already got the first on chick at age of 6 years old on the 25th. And currently, we have already in our second generations of African penguin from our captivity. So for the upper penguin, 20 birds arrived at underwater Langkawi on December 2003. And for the upper penguin, it was a white caught from the Tristan da Cunha Island. And the estimated birth for the rockhoper on 2001 or 2002. And after 4 years in our captive, firstborn of the rockhoper penguin hatched, and currently the penguin age 14 years old. So for your information, currently until July 2021, we have about 73 birds in total. Due to the tank capacity, based on our Wildlife Department of Malaysia, our capacity only can taking care for about 75 to 78 birds at one time. So that's why we need to perform animal exchange program with other zoo from overseas. And for your information, total about 50 birds are already exported to China and also Vietnam. And currently we have 7 chicks for this year, and 6 of these 7 still survive until now. Usually for the early mortality in chick is due to traumatic injury. Okay, after about 16 years in the captive underwater Langkawi, we already produced about 569 eggs in total. This egg include a fertile and also unfertile egg. And for about 16 years in captive, we already produced about 165 chick. And from this amount, 114 still survive until now. And our survivability rate of African penguin is 69%, which is a very good range of the captivity program. So for Roper penguin, currently we have 25 birds, and latest underwater chick is 3 years old, which means that the latest Roper penguin will hatch on 2018. After 18 years in a captive underwater Langkawi, we have about 145 eggs, and we already have 27 chicks in total. 11 out of 37 is survived until now, and the survivability rate of the Roper penguin is 41%. So for the nesting and the breeding season, both of the penguin, African and also Roper penguin, will produce 2 eggs per clutch, with laying interval about 2 to 3 days for African penguin and 3 to 5 days for the Roper penguin. Okay, for the breeding season, for the African penguin is throughout the year, but the peak season is between April to June and between November to February. They can breed throughout the year compared to Roper penguin. And currently in African penguin enclosure, we have about 20 cave nests in the tent, and we have 15 active parents, and most of them are successfully breeding. And for Roper penguin, the breeding season is only between August and October. And in the tank, we have about 12 strip nests with 11 active parents, but only 4 parents have history of successful breeding. That's why if you can see from the previous slide, then there are very big gap between the African penguin and also Roper penguin breeding. This is due to the breeding season and also the history of the successful breeding of their parents. Next, we move on to the egg management of the African penguin, particularly. It's almost similar to all species of penguin, including our Roper penguin. Okay, usually on the day 1, you can refer to the picture A. The egg is numbered and relabeled. And for your information, AE is stand for the African egg, and 533 indicate the running number of the egg hatched during that time. And A or B8 is depends because most of the penguin will produce and lay 2 eggs per clutch. So that's why we name it as and label it as 8B and also 8A. So in this case, it's a 8B, which means the second egg produced by the same parent. So for the parent ID, it's 1 plus 27, which means that African penguin number 1 is a male, and African penguin 27 is a female. And the N2 indicate the nest number. Okay, for the egg, usually we will measure the diameter, length, and the circumference. The egg will be weighed and cleaned once a week to observe and monitor the development of the embryo. The candling also important in order to determine the fertility of the egg. Okay, for the incubation period, for the rooper penguin, it stays about 32 to 36 days. And for the African penguin, it's slightly longer for about 36 to 42 days. And then we move on to the chick assessment. In the picture, we can see the growth development from the day 1 until the chick reach day 70. So usually we do the general chick assessment from day 1 until day 70 with interval of every 3 days. Usually we will measure the body weight, do the flipper and foot length measurement, and to observe the foot length condition, foot conditions. Beak length, usually we will measure the overall length, upper length, and also lower length of the beak. And the plumage changes were recorded based on the stage of the chick. So in addition to this, if both of it were hatched, or we call it as queening, subsequent daily weight of chick are recorded. It is important to monitor overall growth rate of these chicks because usually if both of them are hatched, there are competition between each other, and usually the weaker one is a B8. So the young one is a very weak compared to the older sibling. So that's why we need to do a daily weight for both chick in order to prevent any competition and a burden by the parents. So this is general life cycle of the penguin, and in this specifically for our African penguin. When they reach the adult stage, we can see the black band on the chest, and usually they will mature at the age of 4 years old. During the mature age, the courtship period is about 3 weeks, and then we will be laying egg from about 2 eggs, usually 2 eggs for each clutch. So the incubation period is about 36 to 42 days, and during the first day of until the 70 day of the chick, they will be fed by their parents, and after day 71, the keeper will bring them up from the nest and put them in the specific pen for them to training. So usually for the juvenile stage, the keeper will be take over to take care for this juvenile. We will train them to eat by their own and to be independent. So usually they will teach for about until the age is 100 days, and then we will move them to the main exhibit pen if they are ready to independently living. So for information, juvenile stage will usually first molt at 1 year old, and then we can see the black band on the chest. So this is different between the juvenile and also adult stage. On the juvenile, we cannot see any black band on the chest, but we can see on the adult. So for the penguin care requirement as husbandry. So please bear in mind for anyone that interested to taking care for the penguin and any zoo that want to do husbandry for the penguin. This is a basic requirement that you guys need to know. Usually, the main requirement that we should know about penguin is the temperature requirements and also humidity, because each species have a different preference of temperature based on their location of the habitat, origin habitat, and also their climates and also the husbandry. So for the African penguin, our setting room temperature in our enclosure is between 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. It is similar for our water temperature. And for rockhopper penguin, our setting room temperature is 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. And for the water is 8 to 11 degrees Celsius. And the humidity is usually 80 to 90%. Okay, for information, in situ population of penguin may experience a variety of humidity range depend on the season and also geolocation. So in underwater Langkawi, usually we will practice that humidity must not less than 60% and it must between 80 to 90%. So there are pro and cons when the humidity is too high. For the pro, in help for the breeding and in aid incubation purpose, and for the cons, the warm and humid climate may conducive to aspergillosis. So as a prevention, we need to disinfect and fumigate the tent regularly. And we need to do the air culture every month in order to detect any presence of the fungal in our enclosure. So in addition to that, we have our ASU system, which is a handling unit system that we filtrate our air in enclosure. So the next one is a technical lighting. In our underwater Langkawi, we use a metal halide and LED light. The exposure to the consistent photoperiod is essential to promote the proper breeding and molting cycle. The variations in the molt pattern have been correlated with the lighting schedule. Okay, for information, what is photoperiod or daylight length is the amount of the hour that we open our light in the enclosure. So for the African penguin, the daylight length is 12 hours per day. And for the rockhopper penguin, because we follow the origin climate from the Tristan di Cunha, it follow the 4 seasons. Usually, like example, for this month is a winter month for at the origin. So the minimum is 10 hours per day. So in our enclosure now, we use 10 hours per day of the photoperiod. But during the molting season, this photoperiod can increase up to 14 to 15 hours per day. So it depends on the origin climate of the penguin. So the table below is an example of the climates from the Tristan di Cunha, and we follow this data. And for your information, after the winter month, there are breeding season for the rockhopper penguin, which is from the August to October. And then they will move on to the molt seasons from November to January. So what is molting? Molting is a penguin is sometimes called a catastrophic molt because unlike most birds that we molt a few feathers at a time, for the penguin, they will molt all the feathers all at once. So usually prior to the molting, there is significant increase in their appetite. So we can see the visible weight gain. And for the penguin, when they begin to molt, the appetite will decrease dramatically. So penguin usually molt once a year after the breeding season. Like in the table here, they will molting after the breeding season. So that's why the photoperiod is very important to promote proper breeding and also molting cycle. So next one is during molting period, usually we will change the flipper band. Like in the rockhopper picture, the third picture, we can see the flipper band. And during this molting season, the flipper will swell in. And then we will cut the flipper band and change it with the temporary band in order to prevent the band from impede the circulation. So for the husbandry, including hard plants, usually like I mentioned before, we did our monthly body weight and health checkup. And we also perform annual screening for the avian influenza and Newcastle disease by using a cloaca swab. So Preventive measure in order to prevent any infectious disease or husbandry problem is maintain the good hygiene and regular disinfect. Usually we have a monthly intensive cleaning where we'll intensively clean the enclosure tent, remove all the water pool, and provide a proper flooring and also encourage the bird to swim in. So next one is a biosecurity. For the biosecurity is a set of sanitary and preventive measures that applied permanently prevent and avoid the entry and exit of infectious agents. So for the personal biosecurity measure, we will practice a restrictive staff movement, which means when our keeper is from row upper section, this person is very prohibited to enter up into our penguin tank. So this is important to prevent any infection travel from the avian species, because in our rainforest section we have avian species such as macaw and flamingo and any other species of bird. So this person is very prohibited to enter our penguin tent. So then we must to change to appropriate clothing that belong only to penguin tent, and food dip is a must. Wash hand before and after work, and the person need to wear mask and glove every time during the walking in the enclosure tank. So for the feeding and diet that we are currently practice in underwater Langkawi, for the African penguin, we give approximately about 20 kilogram fishes per day. This is include a mackerel and also catfish. And for information, 10 kilogram per feeding sessions for 10 in the morning and also 10 in the evening. So Mazuri multivitamin supplement was given daily. And for information, each individual bird will eat about 8 to 10 fishes per day. So move on to our roper penguin. Our roper penguin will eat approximately 10 kilogram fishes per day and 5 kilogram per each session. And additional to this, they have 2 kilogram of squid per day with mussel and also shrimp. Similar to the African penguin, they also have a Mazuri multivitamin supplement, and we also give a vitamin E weekly and also calcium supplementation during the breeding season. Because roper penguins tend to have a problem with their reproductive during the breeding season, and also because their egg is sometimes very thin and easily to crack. That's why there are more supplement were given to roper penguin compared to African penguin. And it's similar to African. Each individual bird will eat about 8 to 10 fishes per day. So move on the experience and challenge in caring for penguin. Okay, from my experience in underwater Langkawi, I can conclude that the husbandry is very important in order to support the animal growth and development. So as a vet or any keepers, we need to understand the natural environments, their behavior, the diets, the social and also space requirements. And we also can minimize the chance of disease infections or health problem in captive enclosure. Usually cause the husbandry problem is due to bamboo and also aspergillosis. So for information, as a vet, I also enter into the enclosure tent for the cleanings and also during the feeding session, like in this picture. And during this feeding session, we will monitor each individual pattern of feeding. So if some individual are dropped in the feeding pattern, we can see they are dropping in the body weight for the next month body weight assessment. So that's why it is important for each keeper to check the record how many fish are eaten by the individual bird. So the challenge in the caring for penguin is their life support system. This is a very, very high maintenance and very expensive, and it requires 24-hour electrical supply. So the life support system will include temperature, air and water filtration system, lighting and timer. Okay, for the air temperature, they are controlled by the air handling units, and this also maintained by the for filtration. For the temperature, it's maintained by our compressor. Similar to the water temperature, it maintained and controlled by the heat exchanger, water chiller, and compressor. And for the pool water, they are maintained by the ozone treatment. In ozone treatment, this system have the oxidizing agent that will kill the bacteria, presence of virus or any microorganism in the water. And for the sand filter, it's a filtration system that we currently use in our captivity. And for the protein skimmer, this system will remove the organic waste compound. And for example, like a fecal in the water and a food particle from the water. So that is important to ensure that our water pool is a very clean and also clearer. So that's all from me for today's webinar. If you have any inquiries about penguin or underwater Langkawi, you can send your inquiries to info_underwaterworld@adenzit.com. So before that, let's explore the adventure, and I will stop share my screen and pass to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hazira. For the committee, maybe you can share the video. We will wait. Okay, thank you.
Kita sekarang berada di tangki penguin rockhopper. Jadi jom kita kenal siapa yang tengah menjaga penguin-penguin rockhopper kita.
Hai, nama saya Muhammad Syaril. Saya bekerja sebagai Assistant Animal Keeper di Underwater Langkawi di section rockhopper penguin.
Encik Syaril, jadi apa beza penguin Afrika dengan penguin rockhopper ni?
Dari segi saiz antara rockhopper penguin dan juga African penguin, rockhopper lebih kecil lah berbanding dengan African penguin. Untuk rockhopper penguin, dia ada kita panggil kening ataupun dalam bahasa Inggeris kita panggil crest lah. Untuk African penguin dia tak ada jadi. Bulu dia, warna daripada bulu dia ada line putih mata sampai ke badan lah. Manakala untuk rockhopper penguin dia tak ada benda tu. Dia terus bahagian hadapan ni putih dan juga belakang hitam lah.
Jom kita berjumpa dengan penjaga penguin Afrika pula.
Saya nama Farhana, saya sudah bekerja di sini selama 3 tahun dan telah menjaga Afrika penguin selama 2 tahun. Kami bagi makan 2 kali sehari, pagi pukul 11, petang pukul 45. Kami akan campur antara kembung dan juga selayan.
Ikan-ikan itu juga diletakkan suplemen supaya penguin ni dapat nutrisi yang lebih menyeluruh. Nak jaga penguin ni bukan setakat nak bagi makan tau. Setiap hari pun kena bersihkan tangki dia. Setiap bulan penjaga penguin kita juga akan menyelam dalam tangki penguin yang sejuk ni untuk menyedut sisa makanan dan sisa-sisa dari penguin ni. Okey Kak Zira, jadi macam mana kita nak tahu penguin ni jantan ke betina?
Kalau nak tahu, penguin jantan akan diberi tag yang berwarna hitam. Manakala untuk betina pula akan memakai tag berwarna merah. Tapi, untuk penguin yang belum dikenal pasti jantinanya akan memakai tag berwarna hijau.
Setiap bulan, penjaga penguin kita juga akan menyelam dalam tangki penguin yang sejuk ni untuk menyedut sisa makanan dan sisa-sisa dari penguin ni. Penguin juga dikenali sebagai haiwan yang setia di mana apabila mereka sudah berpasangan, mereka akan berpasangan sepanjang hayat. Apabila mak penguin dah bertelur, telur itu akan menetas selepas 32 hingga 38 hari.
Di underwater Langkawi, apabila anak penguin sudah menetas, penjaga penguin akan melakukan pemeriksaan berkala seperti berat, panjang sayap dan paruh serta kondisi fizikal anak penguin juga akan turut diperiksa.
Okay, is that all the video? Okay, and then thank you so much, Dr. Hazira, for your cool presentation. It's such a great session. And honestly, this is my very first time to get insights about penguin as well, underwater life and such. So guys, this is our opportunity to have a discussion directly with an amazing veterinarian, Dr. Hazira. So maybe the committee can share screen the Slido because I see there are a lot of questions here. Okay. There are several questions already, and I will start to read it from the first one. Okay, Dr. Hazira, how do you isolate the sick penguins? Is there any parameters needed for the water used for sick penguins treatment?
Okay, how we isolate the sick penguin? Usually we have a isolate pen for the penguin if they are sick. So usually if our water have a parameter. Sorry. Okay. How I do isolate the sick penguin is we have our specific own isolation pen for this sick penguin. And if for the parameter used is usually similar from the original water that we use in the enclosure. What's mean of the parameter of the water? Can I know?
Maybe the one who asked this question can explain it any more to Dr. Hazira?
Yes,
Get
please.
clear understanding? Anybody who asked these questions, please? Okay, maybe we can skip this question first because no one... Okay. This is a question, what's the reason the feathers is waterproof? What kind of contents lies in the feathers?
Okay, what is the reason the feather is waterproof is because of their spring gland. Because their glands will use to make the feathers waterproof, especially during in water. So they need to make sure that the feathers is not wet by the water when they coming out from the underground water. So what kind of content lies in the feathers is I'm not mistaken, is a keratinized content. Is it similar like our nails? Yeah.
Oh, I see. Is it different from the print gland or is that
What is different with them?
different with print gland? If I'm not mistaken, the contents itself. So the contents is not print gland, right?
the penguin have a oil that contain the antibacterial properties, and this was used to make the feathers become waterproof also.
Ah, I see, I see. Okay, thank you, doctor. Maybe we jump into the next question. What is the toughest challenge so far when raising penguins in a tropical country? Oh, interesting. Especially in terms of health and animal welfare. Thank you, doc.
Okay, for your information, in our enclosure, the penguin is very rare to got a heart problem. Especially if your husbandry practice is very good, you can minimize the chance of the infection. And what disease that I share in the slide is a common diseases that we found here. And what I can say is in terms of the health, usually it depend on the husbandry. For the infectious disease, usually we do not contaminated our enclosure to the outside environment. So chance to get the infection from the outside is very low unless the keeper or any people coming into the enclosure do not wear the proper biosecurity measure that we have taken care for this one.
Ah, I see. So it's all depend on the husbandry, right, doc?
Yes.
I see. Okay, the next one for surgery. What anesthesia drugs do you use and consider as a safe choice for penguins? Choice for primates and induction?
Okay. Okay. For the surgery, usually the common anesthesia is a gas anesthesia by using isoflurane. But from what I know, most common usually the other than isoflurane, we also can use the sevoflurane, and in addition to that, we also can use ketamine, and we'll maintain it by isoflurane also. If a minor surgery procedure or you just need a sedation, usually midazolam can be given.
Okay. Okay, thank you, doc. Actually, I'm not familiar with kind of drugs because I'm not learning it right now.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's okay. And the next question, is it possible for Underwater World Langkawi Aquarium to recruit volunteers for taking care of penguins? Any conditions? Oh, volunteer. You're so
Okay.
excited, right?
If you are interested to be a volunteer at our company, you can send your CV or anything about you to our email, and then yes, we accept volunteer for taking care of the penguin. You only send your CV to the email that I stated in my slide, and we'll get back to you soon after that.
Ah, I see. Is it possible for non-Malaysia as
Yes,
well?
of course. But with the current pandemic COVID-19, I think we need to take more precaution about that.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, doc. And for the next question, hello. Oh, maybe I will translate it in English. I would like
Okay,
to.
I understand.
Oh, okay. How to distinguish jantan dan betina and also the sign of birahi from penguin stuff?
Okay, if you see generally by eyesight, usually we cannot distinguish between a male or female. Usually we'll perform a DNA section. Usually for the DNA section, we will send a blood sample, feather sample to the lab to detect for the DNA of this penguin. And for the tanda-tanda berahi from penguin is that we can see the male tend to follow the female all the time. And usually male will enter into the nest and provide a nesting, and the suitable partner or female will come to the nest for the coptation period, during coptation period. So we can detect what we see the tanda-tanda berahi.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. The men follow the female, right?
Yeah.
And the next one, what method is used to breed penguins intentionally, doctor?
What breed in penguin? What is mean?
Method.
What's mean by intentionally? What is method to use breed penguin intentionally? Usually in underwater Langkawi, the method to breed the penguin is we currently use a natural mating. We do not use any AI or any artificial mating procedure. Usually we'll is allow the natural mating method.
So how is it, Doc? How the method with the natural method? How is it run so far?
So far, like I mentioned, like similar to tanda-tanda berahi, we do not usually the penguin itself we choose their partner. We do not what called the forced mating. We do not do the forced mating. Usually the penguin itself we find their partner, and this partner is usually similar during their mating age. And there is promote the monogamy practice. So the partner is a similar throughout their life.
I see. So that's all literally natural, right?
Yes, they will choose the partner by their side.
There's no cross mating.
Yeah, there are no cross mating.
And the next one, what is the daily calorie intake required for these penguins? What's the optimum body weight and what other ways are used to manage their body weight, Doc?
Okay, for the daily required calorie intake, I forgot about that, so I will skip this. But for the optimum body weight, usually it depends on the penguin species of penguin. For our African penguin, the optimum body weight is between 2.2 kilogram to 3.5 kilogram for the African. But for the Roper, from 2.5 can up to 3.5 kilogram. It depends usually. It depends during the multi-season, the body weight will increase. So usually our body weight in underwater Langkawi is around 2.5 to 3 kilogram.
I see.
And the other ways to manage the body weight is, like I mentioned in the slide, that we usually will monitor the regular diet they are taking care every day. So we can manage by prevent any in one day all the bird must eat at least 1 or 2 fish per day. So yeah, so we must maintain the body weight based on our record during the feeding session.
Okay, thank you, Doc. And we can jump into the next question. You said disease, aspergillosis, or eye problems are common in your place, Langkawi, underwater world Langkawi. Sorry. Does that mean the current preventive measures aren't effective? What measures would you recommend it?
Okay, it's not okay for the aspergillosis problem. It's very common in captivity, but not every month we can see aspergillus infection. There are only like a few time that there are case of aspergillosis, and during that time we do not know that this bird already affected by aspergillosis. But this only can be distinguished after the bird died and we did a postmortem, and we can see the granulomas tissue nodules on the lung tissue. So that's why start from that day, we will provide anything as a prevention for the aspergillus protocol to take the intraconazole continuously during that time. But currently, if there are no sign of the aspergillosis, we do not give any treatment, but the preventive measure is by doing the air culture for detect any fungal infection. That's why we need to perform a monthly air culture, because usually in the air culture or in the STA agar we can find there is the Aspergillus niger, and if there are presence of any species of Aspergillus, whether it's bad species or can acceptable species in our enclosure, the probably preventive measure is by clean all the enclosure very thoroughly. That's why we need to fumigate and also do a intensive cleaning. That's why that was the main preventive measure that we usually conducted here.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't mean that the measurement of the preventive measurement is not effective, right, guys?
Yeah.
About the
But I want to correct the statement.
Yeah.
Actually, aspergillosis is common in captivity, but it's not common for everyone at our place to have this aspergillus infection. Did you understand or not?
I understand it. It's
Okay.
common, but it's not common in captivity as well. Okay, I get it, Doc. Thank you. For the next question. Okay, thank you for the penguin knowledge. May I know if these two penguins can be kept in the same exhibit?
Okay. These two penguins have a different requirement for their daily life. For example, in terms of the temperature, room, and also water temperature. If you can still remember in my slide, the African penguin, the water and the room temperature is between 80 to up to 20 degrees Celsius. But for the rocko penguin, the temperature is much colder. So, if keep in the same exhibit, I can say that it's not possible for these two species. It depends on the species of the penguin itself. What requirement of their need to support their life support system, especially the temperature requirement for each bird.
So it needs some adjustment, right, to the habitat, like the water, the temperature. It needs adjustment with
Yeah,
both.
because these two penguins are from different habitat and also climate. For the African penguin, it's a temperate from the temperate area, and for the African penguin, it's live in a colder area. So the requirement is slightly different.
I see. I see. So the underwater world Langkawi is adjusting both conditions, right?
Yeah,
I see.
we have specific enclosure for each species. So we have a specific requirement based on the species.
Okay, Doc. Thank you.
Okay.
And the next one, what diagnostic device is available in UWL, Underwater World Langkawi? Ultrasound, X-ray, do you do ultrasound in the captive area or the patient has to be brought out?
Okay. For the diagnosis device, usually we just have our bacteria and fungal culture. We have just the properties of the agar to detect any presence of the disease in our enclosure. For the ultrasound, X-ray, truthfully we don't have. But if we need to use that, we usually rent or we contact the vet clinic in Langkawi or any other place and make the appointment to rent their machine. And for your information, until now I have no experience to do ultrasound or X-ray on penguin yet.
Is there no disease needed ultrasound or X-ray, Doc?
For now, from during my experience in there, they do not have the extent disease that need this diagnostic workup.
Oh, I see.
So that's why I say that the penguin is rarity actually. It depends on the husbandry problem actually.
Yeah. I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
So for the next one, there are a lot of questions, Doc. You're so amazing for them. There are a lot of questions. Okay, for the next one, what kind of enrichment is given to the penguins? Can we give live fishes so the penguin can still hunt for fish and won't lose their wild instinct?
Okay, what kind of arrangement given in our penguin? We use a colorful ball, the small ball, and we put into the pool water and let they play by the ball. Usually the penguin is a very curious bird. They we usually observe the ball by far, and then they tend to come closer to get what is this arrangement. And other than that, usually we use a common bubble, what we call, I don't know what to say. The bubble like the child used to play around. Then we use that for our penguin. Just to see the reaction toward the new introductions of the material or any object into the enclosure. Because the penguin is a very curious bird, they will come closer if they think that the object is safe for them. Can we give live fishes so the penguin can still hunt? That's for me, I not recommend because it's the animal welfare is for me is not suitable in this enclosure yet. So I will not give the live fish for them to play or to hunt.
I see. So the enrichment
because even they have the wild instinct, but they already manage in the enclosure for a quite long time. So we do not practice this kind of the enrichment for them.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Can I answer the question of the enrichment?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Aziza from Underwater Langkawi. We don't use live fish because we want to avoid parasite in fish that can transfer to the birds, to the penguins. So we practice through daily feeding fish that we feed to penguin. We throw in the pool, so penguin can hunt fish in pool. That means we practice during once a week. This actually even the penguin in captivity, their instinct for hunting is still have, but we don't apply live fish because we want to preventive our penguin from parasite from the fish, live fish. And for the our feed, we use 2 weeks frozen feed. So this one all for we practice husbandry. So for prevention, a parasite infection for the penguins, so we don't use live fish. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aziza. Any more addition from Dr. Hazira or Dr. Aziza for discussion? Or it's enough? Oh. Okay, so the enrichment is not by the live fish because it's there are a lot of disease in the fish, right? So it's prefer with the bowl to play with. Okay, thank you, Dr. Aziza and Dr. Hazira for answer the questions. And for the next one, is there any euthanasia practice in underwater world Langkawi? If yes, under what condition the penguin will be put to sleep?
Okay, from my experience, I do not have any experience to euthanize penguin yet. And usually if condition is very worse in the penguin and can cause the outbreak, for example, if we know that our penguin have a Aspergillus disease that can easily to transmit to the other bird. So we'll may tend to perform the euthanasia for the very advanced stage of the aspergillosis bird. But if the conditions stay curable and can be treated, we do not tend to euthanize this bird because a penguin is a very, very important to us, and it's not easily to decide to euthanize this animal unless the case of the infections is very contagious and can spread to all the birds in the exhibit. That's from um, my conclusion lah. But currently, I do not have experience to euthanize penguin yet, and hopefully not.
I see. So you rarely euthanize penguins, Doc. Okay. For the next one, does African or rockhopper penguins shed their feathers on certain times? You already mentioned it in your
As
presentation.
molting period, during the molting period. Yeah.
Okay, so we can jump into the next question because it's already mentioned in the presentation. Why there are penguins who didn't survive when hatched? Can doctor tell us the reasons?
Why the okay, it means that when the chick already hatched, right? Okay, if the chick already hatched, the reason why the penguin is not survived is usually in case of abandoned by parents or any case of the abnormalities. Yeah. But usually the case, our chick in our enclosure usually died during the young mortality period is because of the traumatic injury. Sometimes it's because of our bedding or sometimes due to the nesting material. So not because of a disease yet. Usually it's because of traumatic injury. Or sometimes if like a twinning bird, that's why we need to monitor the twinning birds every day, especially on the second chick. Usually the second chick is the body weight is dropped much lower than the other siblings. So that's why we need to keep monitor their body weight to ensure that their parents are taking care the both penguin every time. So if we tend to know that the one of the penguin abandoned by the parents, we will often use some not activity. It's like prevention treatment. Like we take out the other penguin inside into our brooder for a while and let the parents taking care of this weak chick. Usually do from the morning until afternoon. And then after the evening session, we will bring back the parent or the chick into the enclosure so that the both of the chick will get enough nutrition and feed from the parents. So no one of the chick is abandoned by the parents. Usually the who do not survive is due to the traumatic injury case.
See, it's not because the disease, but because
Yeah.
the traumatic injury. Okay, I get it. And the next one, it's interesting. Any fun fact about penguins? What is the first cause of death of penguins recently?
Any fun fact of penguin is I can say the tongue, because from what I know, the tongue is very characterized for the penguin and cannot be found in any birds, if I'm not mistaken. Because the tongue have a spiky characterized blister, that this will allow the tongue to swallow the whole fish at one time. If you know that the penguin will eat the one whole fish directly and swallow it into the ventriculus at one time. They do not chew or do not bite penguin to make it smaller pieces, but it swallowed all the one piece of the fish at one time. So what first cause of death of penguin recently? If the cause of death for information for the adult penguin is a very rarely to death, but it is very easy to the death is happen during the chick stage or during the few weeks after the chick hatch. So the cause of the first cause of death is what I can see is due to traumatic injury in the chick, because we don't throughout the this period we don't have a case of adult penguin death in during my experience.
Oh, I see, I see. So when they
Only
they
that I have encountered is during the chick stage or a few weeks or a few days after the chick hatch. That's the only cause of that.
okay. They are dead because of the traumatic injury. Again, the traumatic injury, right? Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'm Ariati from Underwater World. I just like to add one more fun fact about penguins. For the rockhopper during breeding season, like the Dr. Hazira explained, usually the penguins will lay 2 eggs. For the rockhopper penguins, the interesting fun fact about these eggs, they have 2 eggs. The first egg, after they lay the first egg, the couple do not incubate the egg. They will wait until they have the second egg. When they receive the second egg, they will remove or destroy the first egg. So that's the one of the fun fact about penguin during breeding season.
It's so interesting. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Ariati. And any more addition from Dr. Ariati or Dr. Hazira for the question?
Yeah. Another one for coupling, we have cases of jealousy between the partners. We have one case of wife stealing, meaning that the male would steal somebody's female, even though doctors say they are monogamous, but they are monogamous 70% of the population, they are monogamous. So you have 30% who are not monogamous, meaning they still have chances to steal other partners.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
In
Ariati.
addition to that, is especially occur in rockapple penguin.
So not with the African penguins, stop.
For the African penguin, we do not see any observation yet for the stelling couple. But for the rockapple, yes, we can see.
Okay, it's quite interesting. They are still in the couple. Okay, and then for the last question, sorry, this is the last question because there are a lot of questions here, but this is the last one. Do the penguins ever fight with one another? What is done when this happens?
Okay. Yes, of course, they ever fight with one another. Like for example, in the case like Cik Arya mentioned before, the stelling partner, that is one, and another reason is due to fighting for the nest. And sometimes the penguin have a specific nest to breed. Even though we have many nests in the enclosure, but they are prefer to breed in a certain nest only. So that's why we have a fight between each other. So what usually we done to avoid this problem from happen, usually we provide some some improvement or some extension to the nest around the area. So to make sure that both couple tend to that space for the breeding area. Usually the fight with one another is can be found in the African penguin because African penguin is very aggressive, especially when they are adults. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Any more addition, Doc?
I think no.
Okay.
Kachi, Arya, you have any addition for that?
Usually fighting happens during breeding season. Like doctor say, they will fight for the partners. They will fight for
Nest.
favorite nest. Sometimes you see them, they fight for the food. They will start jousting each other when there's one or two, more than one penguin or like very hungry. They will start to peck the other penguins so that only they get to eat. So they start pecking on their friends so that their friends will not get the food, so only they will get the food. So and it's not just the penguin fight with penguins. Sometimes you see penguins fight with the keeper.
Yes.
So our keeper, so if you ask our keepers will tell you stories they've been, bitten or been attacked by the penguin. And I think personally I've been attacked. Not attacked. They will peck on me. Puan Aziz also had personal experience. So these penguins, they may look cute, but
Okay, thank you so much. They are actually trying to fight when they want to, when they are jump into a current situation like breeding session, nesting behavior in any kind of situation like that. Thank you so much, Dr. Aryati and Dr. Hazira, for the questions. And so sorry for the questions that has not been answered yet, but don't worry. If you have any questions, you can send it to email info_uwl@edenzil.com. Maybe the committee can type it on the chat box so the participants can see it. And thank you so much for everyone for your enthusiasm in the session. There are a lot of questions and discussion. I do really happy. And I hope right now you can really get clear ideas of the topic of the penguin underwater and such kind of thing, okay? And next, there will be a certificate handover from Himpro Satwa Liar FKH IPB University to Dr. Hewan Najmi Hazira binti Hamzah for sharing the amazing knowledge and experience for all of us in international webinar with the theme Meet the Penguins of Underwater World Langkawi, Introduction to Conservation Medicine and Husbandry. For the committee, I give this space to you to take a photo. The committee. For the committee, are you done to take the photo? Okay. Okay, and then I guess I will next. So thank you for the committee, and once again, thank you, Dr. Hazira, for spending your time, sharing some insight with us, discussion. It's such a great honor for us to having you here, actually. And I will give a conclusion about today's session. So there are two species penguins of underwater world Langkawi. First, there are African penguin or Spaniscus demersus, and the second one is Northern rockhopper penguin or Eudiptes moselleyi. Based on IUCN Red List status, these two species is classified as endangered animals. So penguins has its own characteristics on anatomy, physiology, adaptations, feeding and diet, and general behavior such as reproductive, social, and nesting behavior. As an animal, Penguins have several diseases, and some of those diseases are common in penguins, especially in captivity environments, such as aspergillosis, eye problems, pododermatitis or bumblefoot, brain gland infections, egg-related health issues, and also there's a case report of cloacal prolapse. All of those diseases has a different clinical signs, and that's why required a different treatment and prevention as well. Besides, husbandry is very important in order to support the animal's growth and development, and it also can minimize the chances of disease spreading in captive. And that's it. Hope you all can get something and make your own conclusion as well. So now we will have a photo session together with Dr. Hazira and every part of Underwater World Langkawi. So I encourage all the participants to turn on your camera, use your virtual background, and don't forget to put a smile on your face. So for the committee, I give this space to you for take a photo session together. Hello, for the committee, are you ready to take a photo? Or do you need my help? Okay, I will help for take a photo. 1, 2, 3. And the second slide. 3, 2, wait. 3, 2, 1. Okay, maybe one more time to take a photo session together. Slides 1, 1, 2, 3. And then the second slides. 1, 2, 3. All right. Wait. Okay. Thank you for the committee, and I give this. Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, committee. So now we finally reached the end of the session, but I want to check your examination first. So hello, wildlife.
Life, no wildlife.
I see.
Long life, wildlife.
Wildlife. Okay, I will try it one more time. Hello, wildlife.
Long life.
Long life, wildlife.
I see. I like the spirit. You are as excited as I do. And thank you for that. And also, I want to remind you to fill out the attendance form as provided in the chat box by the committee. Please fill it out if you haven't. And last but not least, I thank you very much for your participation in this session. I hope we can always curious and excited for knowledge and eager to learn wherever, whenever, and from whoever it is. Don't forget to follow us on @fkh.ipbofficial, Himpro Satwa Liar, to keep you updated for further information regarding the next classes with different topics, of course. And if you want to follow more, if you want to know more about Underwater World Langkawi, you can follow @Underwater World Langkawi. I represent the committee, would like to apologize. Is there any convenience that we made? I am Galuh Diandini and see you on another occasion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Terima kasih banyak, dokter.
Thank you so much, doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, participants from Underwater World Langkawi as well. Thank you, Dok Aryati. Thank you, Dok Hazira. Thank you, Dok Aziza. See you again in another occasion.
Thank you, doctor.
Run, 1912 to 72.